Hi everybody, welcome back to Lockdown Lessons Part 19. So with me today I've got Arthur Ponsonby of the Right Tuition Company. So firstly I'd just like to say hello to you, Arthur.
Hi there, Phil, nice to see you.
You too, you too. So probably the best way to kick this off really is just for you to explain to the people that are watching exactly what you do and what the Right Tuition Company does and how you help people.
Yeah, so we are a tutoring company that specialises in providing small group learning to children, supplementary learning, and we have tuition centres based in Tunbridge Wells and Tunbridge. So we're Kent focused, and we teach children along the lines of the national curriculum. So it's trying to support what they do at school, as well as maybe focusing on either national exams or selective school exams. But we teach children both primary and secondary between the ages of 6 and 18, focusing on maths, English and science for the secondary pupils, and then maths and English for the primary pupils. And within the supplementary learning that we offer, we basically try and do all the things that schools find quite hard to do. So things like direct feedback to parents, regular assessment to monitor areas of relative strength and weakness, marking work in a detailed fashion, and just having that more forensic and more personalized approach to helping children with their academic development. But our company mission is to expand the benefits of tutoring to an ever widening demographic. And so a big part of what we do is offering lots of charitable classes and social mobility initiatives. So we have a range of scholarship schemes and programs. We work with education charities. And we also have, through our Tunbridge Centre, a pupil premium initiative where each class, we give access 25% of those spaces to children from pupil premium backgrounds, free school meals. So they get to learn for free. And in so doing, we fund that entirely ourselves. So we don't touch the school's pupil premium budget. And it's just great to give children that bit of extra support that can really unleash their potential. That's really what we do.
So you mentioned before about the sort of class sizes as well. What sort of class sizes do you work with, Arthur?
Well, we have a rule that we never go above 9 in a class. So we find that that's a nice size where you can optimize the whole small group learning feel, because learning is meant to be fun and it's a sensory experience. So you get to learn with friends, make some new friends from different schools. You get to really participate actively in the learning process. And you can unleash confidence, which is so important, because with a group of, say, 8 or 9, children can have the confidence to ask questions or articulate ideas, or even just to make mistakes. Because these days, classes are 30 or 32 in size, and you have to be pretty brave to ask a question in those class sizes. And sometimes it just takes that smaller group, that more familiarized approach, and having that relationship of trust with the teacher and your peers, where you can ask questions and just feel a bit less inhibited in the learning process, and hopefully take that confidence back into the school classroom. We really try and unite what we do here with what they're doing at school. So that's really important.
Superb. That's a great answer to the question. So in terms of how you've actually had to adapt since we went into the original lockdown back on March the 23rd, what has the Right Tuition Company had to do to adapt to the new world that we've been living in since then, shall we say?
Yeah, well, it is a new world, isn't it? And I went to great lengths to start up a tutoring company that was traditional and non-computer based. So it's somewhat ironic that in the space of 2 weeks, we went from that traditional chalk and talk to actually learning via Zoom. So it was just in the Easter holidays when it all broke. And we do teach throughout the Easter holidays a series of revision classes for GCSEs, 11 plus and so forth, and do some workshops. But we had the little bit of a window to get everything online, and all of our teachers au fait with teaching via Zoom, all of the pupils prepped up and ready to go, and just all that communication systems as well. So I learned we had to be flexible And that was a challenge because a lot of our pupils, they're not necessarily the most affluent, and some people might not have printers. They might not have a quiet space to do the work in. They might not have technology in terms of internet connection. So we were faced with sort of a few problems, and we just tried to be flexible in terms of how we worked around that. And so that sometimes meant delivering learning materials to people's houses and all that kind of thing. But yeah, it was about a 2-week turnaround. It was manic because we got about 350 pupils across our 2 sites, and but we did it, and it was it's really, I think it's taught us a lot of lessons around what we can do, and also the importance of being able to adapt and not be too rigid. And that was a lesson for myself, mainly.
So what would you say has gone well? Because I mean, I always like to focus on the positive in these sort of conversations and interviews. What would you say has gone well since we went into lockdown?
I think the great thing is that we were always there for our pupils, and those pupils were without day-to-day schooling. A lot of them, there was a big chasm between how much the primary and secondary pupils were doing with their children remotely, and we were able to keep their learning going constantly from March right through to September. There was no break in learning, no break in classes. And we're really proud about that because a number of parents and pupils have been in touch with us to say that how important that has been, that gaps in knowledge didn't materialize as a result. So that was really positive as well. But really, the best thing, I think, aside from that, is I think it's brought our team closer together. We have a very clear set of principles underpinning our company. The adherence of good, rigorous, traditional learning, the feedback, etc. And it's really brought us together, and everyone's been very determined, and that's been very empowering, I think, as a collective unit. So I think there have been massive positives in terms of the cohesion of the team, but also the recognition that we have a value to what we do, and it's really nice to see tangible impacts upon children. So there have been successes, and I'd like to think, aside from education, we're being there to support children as well. A big thing about tutoring is you're getting to know the individual. Pupils really have to trust the teacher, get to know them as a person. And we've been there to hopefully be another voice or sort of aspect of support for them in that time. Because a lot of our parents might be single parents, they might be going through employment problems.
True.
So it's good to be there to support them.
Yeah, I suppose that my thinking is the value in what you do and how you operate has been there from way before lockdown. But I suppose the value has probably come out even more during lockdown because of the problems, the day-to-day problems that most families are actually experiencing at the moment, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this whole new world we live in shines a light on the disparities of wealth, and how people who maybe at the poorer end of the socioeconomic spectrum do struggle, and it's sort of shone a light on that. But also, children are very resilient, and I'd like to think that sort of sometimes I know from the way children have approached their work, the determination to sort of, in the absence of normal, to keep things as normal as possible. That's something which we're trying to do. It's actually hopefully brought a lot of families closer together. We always hear about the rather, very sad, tragic stories, but I have seen it on a daily basis. Wonderful sort of resolve amongst families, and the determination just to plow on. That is what one has to do. You have to be persistent. I think there was an American president, Calvin Coleridge. He said, "Persistence alone is omnipotence." And it's very true. You just got to keep, plowing ahead, and there's a lot to be said for that.
I 100% agree. I might steal that quote myself, actually, Arthur. Thank you for that. The check's in the post, obviously. So in terms of the changes that have been enforced upon you during lockdown, have there been any changes that you're going to actually continue with after we're allowed to do what the hell we like?
Well, it's taught me to not be too narrow-minded, as I mentioned before, about sort of just here we are in a classroom, traditional learning. I've always been supportive of people using technology, when learning, but not necessarily the people don't come to us for that. But I want to keep the online learning going because I think I've learned some children just really respond to that kind of approach and that technology. And still, whilst people are maybe at different ends of the spectrum around anxiety, around the virus, it's still a godsend for people to be able to learn via Zoom. So we want to keep that going. And of course, there are many transferable aspects to learning online with the small group dynamic. Questions get answered immediately. There's still that interactive feel, which is really good. So yeah, I think the learning online would definitely continue. And maybe sort of just looking at a few other possibilities in that area. But I've learned that sort of what we do holds great value. But I think it's just it teaches me to be a bit more open-minded, I'd say. Yeah.
Good. So for those of you that are thinking, okay, this is something that maybe I've got children that might be interested in tuition outside the school environment, what would they look like in terms of where would they be based geographically? Like you've given us an idea of the age band, and the socioeconomic background is almost immaterial by the sounds of things.
Yeah.
So who would your ideal customer be from your point of view? Who would you be able to help the most, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, your household income. We've got parents of our pupils that are cleaners, supermarket employees, taxi drivers, and so forth, and hedge fund managers. So we're a broad church. People tend to get in touch with us, and then we speak to them about their child, be it on the telephone or via Zoom. We then will give children a free introductory class as an all-important taster session. The most important thing is the child is happy with the learning environment. And so before you plow ahead, you really want to make sure that they're happy with everything, be it the teacher or the dynamic. And we give children a free introductory academic assessment to ascertain where they're at. And we teach children from all over in terms of the local West Kent area. Children have come to us from Hastings before, which is an hour drive.
Wow.
But typically we serve the local community in Tunbridge Wells and Tunbridge. We've got more centres that I want to start in September 21. And one of the hardest things has been planning for that. But we've got children that come to us really from the local schools, and 90% of those children will be state educated. But really we find ourselves teaching children from all local schools. But we don't work with too many schools. Okay. I have a partnership with Tunbridge Grammar School and indeed the Judd School, but that's in terms of offering our social mobility initiatives, pro bono classes. So whilst we teach children from all schools in the local area, school head teachers and schools aren't often too keen on working with us. And that's a barrier I'd quite like to break down in the future.
Fantastic. Well, that's been amazing to hear from you, Arthur. It's been lovely to meet you again. And just for those of you that might want to get in contact with you right away, I will be posting the details in the box below. But I just wondered if you could explain briefly how best they can contact you.
Yeah, absolutely. So either you can get in touch with us via the website, which is www.right-tuition.co.uk, and we can just drop a simple email inquiry there, or you can get in touch with us on the telephone, 01892 800 492, and we're also on Facebook and Instagram and all the stuff is another world to me, and I leave to other people. Yeah. But
people will be able to find you anyway and maybe find
They really can. Just pop us into Google and we come up. and read some of the reviews just to make sure we're not complete nincompoops. They tend to say nice things about us, and yeah, we want to help any child or family that wants their child to learn or to improve. We never discriminate upon academic ability. It's all about sort of unleashing their confidence, understanding children, because every child's different, and giving them the tools that they need to improve and enjoy learning. That's ultimately what we want to do. Get children to think for themselves and to enjoy learning. And we're pretty good at that.
Good, good. Well, lovely to speak to you, Arthur. Thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you, Phil.
Yeah, catch up soon.
All right, cheers. Thank you, Phil. Bye.
Take care. Bye, Arthur.